The little girl had stopped crying because she had run out of strength. 7-year-old Lucy Carter sat beside an abandoned trading post, her thin arms wrapped around a wicker basket containing her 3-month-old baby brother, Noah. Snow covered her hair and eyelashes. Her shoes were soaked, and every few seconds she looked toward the road, hoping someone would return. Nobody did. Then a dark horse appeared through the blizzard. 38-year-old cowboy Ethan Cole pulled his reins and stared at the strange sight. "Girl," he called. Lucy looked up. "Are you alone?" Her lips trembled. "No, I have my brother." Ethan climbed down and approached carefully. "Where's your mother?" Lucy lowered her eyes. "Gone too." Ethan looked at the baby. "Who left you here?" Lucy hugged the basket tighter. "Uncle Thomas." Ethan's expression hardened. "Why?" Lucy finally looked into his eyes, and a tear rolled down her frozen cheek. "Because no one wants me." Ethan froze. Those 4 words struck something deep inside him. He removed his heavy coat and wrapped it around both children. "That's not true." Lucy shook her head. "Everyone says it is." Ethan held out his hand. "Then everyone is wrong." Lucy hesitated before taking it. Ethan lifted Noah carefully and helped Lucy onto his horse. "You're coming home with me." As they rode through the storm, Ethan didn't realize that 3 men were watching from a ridge. One of them lowered his binoculars and whispered, "He found them." The man beside him nodded. "Then Thomas will want them tonight." Back at Ethan's ranch, Lucy was given warm clothes, soup, and a place beside the fireplace. Noah slept peacefully for the first time in days. Ethan noticed Lucy staring at the door. "You're safe," he told her. She whispered, "That's what Mama said before Uncle Thomas came." Ethan crouched beside her. "Tell me what happened." Lucy looked toward the sleeping baby. "Mama got sick. Uncle Thomas said he'd take care of us, but he took our money. Then he told me I was trouble." Her voice cracked. "He said nobody would ever keep a girl like me." Ethan's jaw tightened. Before he could answer, 3 heavy knocks shook the front door. Lucy immediately grabbed Noah's basket. "He's here." Ethan stood. "Thomas?" Lucy nodded. "Please don't let him take us." Ethan moved toward the door and picked up his rifle. "He won't." A man's voice thundered from outside. "Ethan Cole, open this door." Ethan recognized Thomas Carter immediately. He opened the door just enough to see Thomas standing in the snow with 3 armed men. "Give me the children," Thomas demanded. Ethan stepped outside. "They're not going anywhere." Thomas laughed. "You don't know what you're protecting." Ethan looked at him. "Then tell me." Thomas's smile disappeared. "Those children are my family. Family doesn't leave children in a blizzard." Thomas reached for his weapon. Ethan moved first. He knocked the gun from Thomas's hand, and the first attacker charged. Ethan ducked beneath the man's swing and drove him backward into the porch railing. Another man rushed forward. Ethan caught his arm and threw him into the snow. The third attacker drew a pistol. Ethan shoved the cabin door open and shouted, "Lucy, stay down." A shot cracked through the night and struck the wooden post beside Ethan. Ethan tackled the gunman before he could fire again. Thomas tried to escape toward his horse, but Ethan caught him by the coat and dragged him into the snow. The 2 men struggled violently until Ethan forced Thomas to the ground. "You came for those children," Ethan growled. "You're going to tell me why." Thomas stared at him with hatred. "You have no idea what that girl is carrying." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "What does that mean?" Thomas suddenly smiled. "Ask her about the pendant." Ethan turned toward the cabin. Lucy was standing in the doorway, holding Noah. Around her neck hung a small silver pendant. Ethan had seen it earlier, but hadn't understood its importance. Now Thomas was staring directly at it. Ethan immediately realized the fight had never been about 2 abandoned children. Someone was desperate to get that pendant back. Thomas was arrested after the sheriff arrived, but before he was taken away, he looked at Ethan and said, "Your father knew the truth." Ethan froze. "My father?" Thomas smiled coldly. "Open the old box in your attic, cowboy. Then you'll understand why those children were never supposed to survive." That night, Ethan stood alone in his attic with a lantern in his hand. He opened an old wooden chest that had belonged to his father. Inside was a faded photograph of a young woman holding a baby. Beside her stood Ethan's father. On the back of the photograph were 5 words that changed everything: "Protect Sarah's children at all costs." Ethan stared at the photograph. Sarah was Lucy's mother. But if his father had known her, why had nobody ever told him? Then he found a sealed letter beneath the photograph. The first line read, "Ethan, if you are reading this, Sarah has failed to return." Ethan's hand began to tremble. He opened the letter, unaware that Lucy was standing silently at the bottom of the stairs. and that she had just heard her mother's name. Ethan slowly unfolded his father's letter, while Lucy stood at the bottom of the attic stairs, clutching the railing with one small hand. The lantern flickered across the old paper. His father's words revealed that Sarah Carter had discovered Thomas was stealing money and land from innocent families throughout the county. When Sarah threatened to expose him, Thomas tried to destroy the evidence. Ethan's father helped Sarah escape, but she had been forced to leave Lucy and Noah behind temporarily. Before disappearing, she gave Ethan's father the silver pendant as proof of the children's identity. The letter ended with a warning. Thomas will come looking for them. If he finds the pendant, he will know where the evidence is hidden. Ethan looked toward Lucy. Your mother trusted my father. Lucy's eyes filled with tears. Is Mama alive? Ethan didn't answer immediately. Then he noticed something written beneath the final sentence, a location near an abandoned silver mine in the mountains. Before Ethan could say anything, a horse screamed outside. He rushed to the window and saw flames rising from the barn. Stay here, he ordered. Ethan grabbed his rifle and ran outside. Two riders were setting fire to the fence while another tried to break into the barn. Ethan fired into the ground to scare them away, then charged toward the nearest man. The attacker swung a wooden club. Ethan blocked it with his forearm and pushed him backward. Another man rushed from behind. Ethan turned just in time and knocked the weapon from his hand. The attacker stumbled into the snow. Where's Thomas? Ethan demanded. The man refused to answer. Ethan grabbed his coat and pulled him closer. Where is he? The man finally whispered. The mine. Ethan released him and ran back toward the house. Lucy was waiting at the door with Noah. They're coming back, she said. Ethan nodded. Yes, but this time we're going to find your mother first. Before dawn, Ethan, Lucy and Noah left the ranch with the sheriff following several miles behind. The trail toward the abandoned mine was dangerous, but Ethan knew every mountain path. By afternoon, they reached an old wooden cabin hidden among the trees. Inside they found a woman lying beneath blankets. Lucy stopped breathing. Mama? The woman opened her eyes. Lucy? The little girl ran into her arms. Sarah cried as she held both children. He thought I'd never see you again. Ethan stood quietly in the doorway, but Sarah looked at him with recognition. You're Ethan Cole, he nodded. Your father saved my life once. Ethan showed her the letter. Sarah immediately understood. Thomas found out about the evidence. She explained that she had hidden the original property records inside the old mine, and had been searching for a way to retrieve them. But before they could leave, horses thundered outside. Thomas had found them. Ethan stepped onto the porch. Thomas and 4 men surrounded the cabin. Thomas shouted, "And nobody gets hurt." Ethan shook his head. It's over. Thomas laughed. You still don't understand. He pointed toward Lucy. That little girl is the last person who can prove what I did. Ethan stood between Thomas and the cabin. Then you'll have to get through me. Thomas charged. Ethan met him halfway. The 2 men crashed into the snow, struggling as the wind roared around them. Thomas swung wildly, but Ethan blocked the attack and forced him backward. One of Thomas's men rushed toward the cabin, but the sheriff and his deputies appeared over the ridge. Drop your weapons, the sheriff shouted. The remaining men surrendered, but Thomas refused. He grabbed Ethan's collar and tried to pull him toward the cliff edge. Ethan fought to keep his footing. Thomas snarled, "You should have stayed out of this." Ethan answered, "You should have left those children alone." With one final effort, Ethan broke free and forced Thomas onto the ground. The sheriff arrested him immediately. Inside the cabin, Lucy held her mother tightly while Noah slept peacefully nearby. Sarah handed Ethan the silver pendant. This belongs to you now. Ethan shook his head. It belongs to Lucy. Sarah smiled. That's exactly what your father would have wanted. Months later, spring arrived in Red Creek. Sarah recovered and moved into a small house near Ethan's ranch. Lucy visited Ethan every morning, helping feed the horses and laughing with the ranch hands. Noah grew stronger every day. One evening, Lucy stood beside Ethan on the porch watching the sunset. "Mr. Ethan?" "Yes? Do you remember what I said when you found me?" Ethan smiled. "You said nobody wanted you." Lucy looked down. "I was wrong." Ethan knelt beside her. "You were never unwanted, Lucy. You were just surrounded by people who made you believe it." Lucy smiled and hugged him. Ethan looked across the ranch toward Sarah's house. He realized that his choice during that blizzard had changed far more than one little girl's life. He had rescued a family, uncovered his father's unfinished promise, and found a purpose he never knew he needed. And Lucy finally understood something she would carry for the rest of her life. Sometimes the world tells you that you don't matter, but one person's courage can prove the world wrong. Ethan had opened his door when everyone else had closed theirs. That choice changed everything.